What happened was, out of 130,000 people reporting in what they did with the money, who they hired, how many jobs, 70 didn't know how to count. 70, when they asked what district were they from, thank God it's not true. They said there are 14 congressional districts in Arizona. Imagine all those Republicans. But
could have been a good laugh line, but Joe Biden made a mistake while he was trying to clean up their mistakes. It was 700 congressional districts that don't exist that got created.
And a lot of cleanup duty still ahead. Lots of numbers to get sorted out. Top Line starts right now.
Hello and welcome to ABCNews.com's Top Line. I'm David Chalian.
And I'm Rick Klein.
Each weekday, we're bringing you the very latest political headlines, reporting, insight, analysis, everything you need and want to know about politics.
And keep the conversation going beyond lunch and all day long. It's twitter.com/thenote. Let us know what you think.
Excellent. Kick us off. What is your top line today, Rick?
Holder on the Hill. Attorney General Eric Holder undergoing perhaps his toughest day of questioning yet. This time he is on the hot seat before the Senate Judiciary Committee today, talking about the decision to bring Khalid Sheikh Mohammed to New York for terrorism trials. Also going to be addressing the now delayed decision to close Guantanamo Bay. It's not going to happen by the end of January. This is a tough one for Eric Holder. He's gotten a lot of tough questions, including some questioning by Senator Graham this morning on how would you handle Osama bin Laden if this is what you do with Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. Even
friendly senators like Chuck Schumer raising in the questioning the fact that the city of New York is going to have to pay it's going to cost about $75 million for security, enhanced security to bring this. Rudy Giuliani on a conference call, of course, attacking this, saying this really could have been done in a military tribunal. This is going to be an issue that's going to stick with the administration for quite a while throughout this entire trial process. Afghanistan looms. Secretary of State Clinton makes her first trip to Afghanistan as Secretary of State. She's there for the Karzai inauguration taking place tomorrow. And this is coming when President Obama, in interviews with networks while he was in China, said that his decision is several weeks away, potentially. So we may still not have a decision right around the corner. And that he prefers not to hand Afghanistan off to a successor. He would prefer, at the end of his administration, to give his successor a clean slate.
I'm pretty sure George W. Bush preferred the same thing, but the realities were somewhat different. It does, though, give a bit of a window into his thinking as he tries to find what we're referring to as these exit ramps from Afghanistan strategy. He is thinking about the end game, even though we're talking about a short-term escalation. Spin job. Joe Biden says it's a small problem, but it turns out there are more fake congressional districts over at recovery.gov than there are real ones. And you add to that the statement from the Recovery Board chairman today that actually the federal government can't certify these numbers that are documented on a federal government website. This is just a raft of problems for the administration around this. At a time that people on the Hill are talking about a second set of stimulus proposals, they're still trying to explain why the first ones work, why we should trust the numbers when there's these huge inaccuracies.
You saw how angry Chairman Obie was in John Carl's piece on World News last night. And there is a problem here in the sense that we were promised by this administration that this was going to be fully accountable, fully transparent. You'd be able to see everything. So they set up such a high standard for themselves. We knew that it was likely that they would fall short, and these are the ramifications when they do. And finally, the big reveal. Yes, Harry Reid is going to unveil his health care bill to his fellow Democrats inside a caucus meeting later today. Rick, this is fascinating to me because if just one senator emerges from that caucus room after hearing the details of the bill and expresses to any journalist around the slightest bit of a reservation, that means the vote is in trouble.
That's exactly right. And we're still waiting on the Congressional Budget Office. That could affect that 1 or 2 or 3 or maybe 10 senators who'd come out and express some skepticism.
Indeed. We're going to begin with politics today. We are joined from Connecticut, here in Washington, Tom Foley, former ambassador to Ireland, running for the Republican nomination in Connecticut with the hopes of taking on Chris Dodd in the fall. Thank you for being here, sir.
My pleasure.
I do want to begin, if I could get your sense, we were just talking about Attorney General Holder on the Hill. Well, what is your take on Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, this decision for the Obama administration to move his trial to a civilian federal district court in Lower Manhattan?
I think it's a mistake. I'm glad they've decided to go for the death penalty, but I think this could have been much more easily handled in a military court. And I think the administration is mixing domestic politics with foreign policy. I think it should have stayed in the military environment.
You've got some experience in this realm of foreign policy. You spent some time with the Coalition Provisional Authority doing privatization efforts. I'm interested in your take, looking back at that and also looking at lessons now. Do you think the CPA did what it was sent to Iraq to do?
Well, the CPA had a very difficult challenge. I think when the post-conflict, it wasn't expected that the security problems that would develop, and that hindered and made the task much more difficult for the CPA. But the CPA laid a lot of good groundwork that's being the fruits of which are being realized now. I was in charge of basically the economic portfolio. We did a lot of things then that now that the security problems are being relieved, that are taking hold and are helping the economy.
Do you see lessons there for Afghanistan?
I think so. I certainly think the surge was a good lesson, and I think that the President ought to listen to his generals. I think the opportunity in Afghanistan is similar to where we were in Iraq 3 or 4 years ago.
You see that Sarah Palin has been out across the country now promoting her book. Would you like her endorsement inside your Republican primary up there in Connecticut? Will you invite her to come and campaign with you in the Nutmeg State?
Well, I'm gonna be looking for all the help I can get. She's quite an interesting lady, and she's served the Republican Party quite well. Connecticut isn't Alaska, so some of the positions on the issues that appeal to the voters and other things are certainly different. But
will you invite her in to campaign with you?
Well, if she wants to come to Connecticut, I'll certainly welcome her. Yes.
When you look at how the race is shaping up, Chris Dodd, the key issue, of course, is health care and his involvement in that. What should the Senate be doing now? Do you think that there should be an opt-out for states? Obviously, you'd be opposed to the health care bill, but do you think it's important that there be an opt-out provision where states like Connecticut perhaps would be able to say no to the health care bill?
Well, I think you're talking about the public option.
Right.
I don't think there should be a public option. I think if I were in the Senate and I was trying to advise people on what to do, I'd separate the problem into its two parts. You have healthcare costs, which are way too high. That's a problem that everybody benefits from, and we know a lot of the solutions that would help contribute to lowering costs, and the government would save money. So let's take that on now. But the expanding coverage and the cost and the solutions to that problem aren't as well known. So I think we ought to have a 12 or a 24-month debate, a public debate, vigorous debate, and learn the most we can from all the states about what's are going to be the most effective solutions and what it's going to cost before we take on that challenge.
So, I'm sorry, are you in favor of triggering a public option?
No.
Later on down the road?
I don't think there should be a public option.
Out of it entirely. And you're running against former Congressman Rob Simmons. He's in this nomination battle as well up there in Connecticut. He has taken of late to touring the state carrying a tea bag in his pocket. What do you make of that?
Well, Rob has a very liberal voting record that I think now that he's expecting that there's going to be a primary, he's trying to wash his hands of a little bit. And the Tea Party people are people that he would probably want to try and appeal to. Don't know whether or not it's going to work.
Are you not trying to appeal to them as well?
Well, I think, I'm very grateful that they've spoken up on some of the issues that they have. I think they've attracted a lot of attention in Congress, and I think with respect to the health care bill, for example, I think the Blue Dog Democrats are going to be very reluctant to vote for a public option, which I think is a good thing.
There's a debate raging inside the party, of course, as you know, as to whether the party better served going back to kind of its roots, its ideological roots, or try to find candidates who fit better in districts. What's the role, do you think, for the national party in these kind of things? Would you rather see the NRSC, for example, just stay out of a state like Connecticut, let the primary voters fight it out?
Well, I think nationally, the party needs to offer a big enough tent so that all the different positions and issues that apply to different parts of the country can be tolerated. So I think it's a good thing when the party comes in and helps out and helps give candidates guidance.
Give guidance and support one candidate over the others?
You mean in primaries?
Yeah, in a primary.
Well, traditionally they haven't done it. I think the party ought to stay out of primaries.
So you're not seeking the endorsement of the NRSC, Chairman Cornyn, that organization?
I'm not, no.
You are not seeking their endorsement. And I'm unfamiliar with your positions on a whole variety of issues. Where are you on the energy bill, the cap and trade bill that passed Congress?
Well, I'm against cap and trade. That's what I call a stealth tax. I think if the government wants to tax the citizens, they ought to say that it's a tax and collect it and then hand it out to who they think should receive the funds. Cap and trade is merely a tax, but it's an invisible tax.
And quickly, would you potentially go the Joe Lieberman route if you don't win the nomination? Any chance you'd seek this office as an independent, or is it Republican or bust? No.
Republican or bust.
Right.
I like that.
Republican or bust it is.
I've been a loyal Republican for 3 decades and worked for the party and helped get other candidates elected. So
Former Ambassador Tom Foley, thank you very much. Good luck on the campaign trail. We hope to see you up there.